Howdy everybody, here for my monthly garden walk. This one's going to be August. We're about a week into August, and at least when this is filmed. And we'll start off with, this is my shea tree guild, permaculture guild or permaculture island. We're starting off here. We'll make a few cuts. We'll make it through all of my different food forest type areas, but I'm going to zoom us in a little bit. That was just as zoomed out as I could get because I wanted to show off just how incredible this is. I filmed a video specifically on this roughly a week ago, and it's going to come out first, so those that have seen it are now going to see this. Look at how huge that squash is. And as we come over here, here's a little look in at the shea tree itself, C-H-E, shea tree. They're a relative of mulberry and Osage orange, and fig by extension. It's taller than me right now. It's looking quite good. Hopefully next year we'll get fruit, though it's hard to say. Right over here, there's the boysenberries I've shown off before. While they're not flowering yet, there's the chrysanthemums that have been coming back for the last couple years in here. Right there's a fruit. Looks like it's kind of shriveling up, which would mean it probably didn't get pollinated. But there's so many here, I'm not worried about it. I mean, look at the size of that one. The vines are still just running all over. It is just so crazy how much these produce. I just can't get over it. Right over here, we have my Siberian pea shrub. It's only a year old. Strawberry right next to it. Again, more of this squash. There's technically 2 squash growing here, but it's almost all just one plant. Look at the size of that. It's so much bigger than it was last year. I'm told that like replanting hybrid seeds over and over again can have weird yields. This would be the second year of this same hybrid going all kinds of crazy. It's another one that didn't pollinate. And it's just covered in fruit. Even with those that didn't pollinate, there's nothing for me to really worry about. Just keep walking. Yeah. Right around here's another. I believe I got these seeds from Baker Creek originally, and without intending it, I accidentally got it too close to some others, so it became sort of a land race. Wow! That one's got no neck on it, so it's more of a pumpkin shape, but it's all the same plant. So the genetic diversity is all kinds of crazy in here. But just wanted to show that off. Some bee balm growing in the center. I've planted a lot of different flowers, herbs, and things like that in here. They were struggling in the sun. Now they're probably going to be struggling in the shade, but it is what it is. The tough survive in these kind of plantings. Wow. It's a fruit that looks like it didn't pollinate. There's that big one I showed at the start from a different angle. My apologies. Looks like that one got hurt on top. I may harvest that one and serve it as a summer squash like a zucchini, because it's just not going to store well with those wounds. But that's okay. It's one of the great things about squash early enough is that they can still just be used like zucchini even if they're a winter squash variety. But I think I'll make a cut here and we'll move on to a different part of the food forest. Maybe I'll do chestnuts this time around. See you in a minute. Alright everybody. For those of you who've been watching for a while, you'll know this is kind of my least permaculture area. This is a more traditional, more modern planting. Everything's spaced out equally, and there isn't a lot of companion planting going on quite yet. A little bit here and there, but not much. But the chestnuts are 2 years old, and at this point, last time I counted was 2 weeks ago, something like 60 of the 100 have all reached out the top of their tree tubes. So they're growing quite fast, quite well, and one of them even tried to flower this year. So that means I should be getting yields, maybe small yields, even by next year, if I decide to let them fruit. Otherwise, I'll pinch the flowers off and let them keep focusing on growing for one more year. But this is sort of my money plan. I'm hoping to make enough money selling chestnuts to restaurants, local farmers markets, and things of that nature to be able to afford property tax on the family farm. That's the goal for them. So that's why I've got so many. In the long run, I'm hoping that that will be able to pay for all of that so that I can focus on more permaculture style growing and, you know, not have to worry about money all the time. But we'll walk a little bit around and take a closer look at them. I really like them, and I am going to turn this into a more permaculture style food forest over time. Right now, like I said, it's just chestnuts. The blue ones are hazelnuts, excuse me, and a little bit of companion planting going on. A couple of these have Apios americana, which is a nitrogen fixing vine that's perennial. And so it's growing up inside the tree tubes on some, but not all of these. Here's a hazel that has Apios americana growing inside. It's a little bit too short for that Apios. The Apios is looking for more to climb on. So hopefully next year this hazel shoots up a whole bunch in spring and becomes a better trellis. Because otherwise that vine's going to really start to overtake it next year. I only planted little bitty tubers, like, I don't know, maybe that small or smaller. And they seem to do pretty good regardless, so there's lots of tubers. And they'll slowly perennialize in the soil and grow out and around here. And in times of desperation, I can dig them up. Or I can just leave them there as nitrogen fixation for as long as necessary. They're quite tasty, so I wouldn't call them a famine food. They taste like buttered potatoes without needing to add butter. They're very tasty. They're very nutritious. They're like potato with 3 times the protein is what I've been told the nutrition is like on them. So they're a great plant. I have a lot of videos on them if you want to learn more, but it's hard to dig around an established tree. So digging up this one might be saved for emergencies, but it gives you an idea of things you can do to combine all sorts of different stuff. But, you know, aside from the hazels, which are on their very first year, I planted them this spring. The chestnuts are all on their second year. I planted them last spring, you know, spring of last year. They're looking pretty good. Of course, you know, not everything's perfect. It's always that way. There's a lot less to show off out here, I'd say. There's a lot more to show off in some other spots, but yeah, very, very nice to see how things are growing. We'll make a cut and we'll show off another part of the food forest. See you in a moment. Another quick one to show off right out here is a sort of companion planting that's only been here since the spring. I moved this itty bitty baby chestnut back here where it was less likely to get pollinated. So I transplanted it. I surrounded it with a couple potatoes, mulched it all in really, really heavy. The potatoes have been growing great, but they're starting to get tired of this excessive heat. So they're going to shrivel up soon. There's a bee balm up here just finishing up its beautiful show. You know, sooner or later, they got to get some rest too, but it'll come back next year because it's a perennial. So just showing off this spot real quick. That's just an old log. It's going to break down and add a lot of nutrients to the soil, and the potatoes will reproduce and put tubers under it because they can sense it's a nice moist climate and that it has lots of nutrients there. So it's a really easy way to find a lot of potatoes hidden below. I'll see y'all in the next spot. Alright everybody, here for another spot. This one is my quince tree. You can see there's a lot of Japanese beetle damage. In fact, if I start shaking the tree, you'll see them all just start to drop off. They're not as bad as they were earlier because the birds have figured out how to eat them, but they still do a lot of damage. There's one that's still just hanging out. So they're a pain, but you can see there's this green growth at the tips. So the tree's just going to push through it. It's going to just ignore the damage and keep going. All this is some kind of milkweed vine, and it keeps getting monarch caterpillars on it. So I'm going to leave it, even though it probably would be better for my tree to cut it back, because I'd really like to see more monarch butterflies and monarch caterpillars out here. Down below in the shade, you can see there's some hosta still growing down there. Hostas are edible. Deer like them, so the deer are more likely to eat them than they are my tree. It's got its own benefits having it grow in there. And then there's all this asparagus ferns. This is a place I can harvest pretty heavy each spring. You can see it's all coming out of the ground in one spot. Right here, I've been missing it, but right there is hardneck garlic. Oops. Right there, if I just sprinkle them, those should come up, or at least some of those should come up as more garlic next year. And that stem, we'll just leave it at the base of the tree. It'll break down and feed the tree. And way in there, that leaf that's covered in a spider web climbs all the way up to here. Those are, oh, what's the word? Hops. Same thing they use to flavor beer. Hops have some medicinal uses such as relaxing muscles. They're muscle relaxant, as well as a bit of an antibacterial. And right behind me, I've got a fence here. Some flowers that are starting to dry up, but this is also Apios americana. This stuff along the fence I can dig up anytime I need to, or I can leave it to just keep getting bigger and making more of itself. It's got some beautiful blooms here and there all over it. And I just grow it along this fence. The fence is a big dog run, so they have at least 2 acres, probably more, that they get to run around in. And everything past that is just the outside area. In there is a rhubarb. It's struggling in this heat. We were really dry for a while. More Apios americana. Great big happy vines over here. In general, just one of my favorite plants to show off. I'm going to cut the camera for a moment, and I'll see you in another part of the food forest in just a moment. Goodbye. Howdy everybody. Out here on the maypop trellis. Japanese beetles being drawn in by the smell of it, but they just can't do anything to it because it grows so fast. There's maypop fruit growing all the way up to the top this year. It's doing even better. Beautiful blooms. Beautiful blooms from the ground all the way to the top. All over this plant. Just an incredible plant. I can't wait to have more of the fruit this year. There's a bumblebee. Just having a nice snack on that one. You can kind of see at that angle how this plant pollinates as that bee goes from place to place and from flower to flower. Oh, there's another one. They rub their backs all over those the reproductive parts of these flowers. Let's just hold still here as much as my shaky hands in this heat can handle. You can see how that bumblebee's back's actually got a bald spot worn from how much it rubs all over. The plant's reproductive parts are all positioned right where large-bodied bees like that, every time it does a circle, it rubs from one flower to the next, and it rubs all over those reproductive parts of that flower. So that's how they get pollinated. And bit by bit, they just walk in circles. It's pretty cool to watch. Occasionally they even get drunk because these are very powerful relaxants. There's bees absolutely everywhere now that I'm not moving as much. There's another one. Of course, honeybees will come and eat some too, but the honeybees don't do any pollination. It's these big-bodied bees, bumblebees, carpenter bees. The big-bodied bees are the ones that actually pollinate this species. And it's just really fun to watch them. Like I said, sometimes you'll find them, they just kind of fall asleep from the medical effect of these. These are really good for sleep. I'm probably going to start picking these flowers soon to make my own tincture to try out. Supposedly they preserve well as a tincture, just soaking them in alcohol, and that should make a safe sleeping medication, or fairly safe sleeping medication. So hopefully I'll make some videos on that. we'll give this a cut and we'll move to the next location. See y'all in a minute. Here's another one of my little permaculture islands. This one, the tree itself is quite small, so it's kind of being overtaken by its companion plants. But this is a cut leaf coneflower. These are buds that have not quite flowered yet. There's a flower kind of at full bloom. These are edible in salads. The greens are edible raw or cooked, though they get a little tough at this point, so they're better cooked. And the plant can get well over 12 feet tall. This one's at least 7. Right in there is the actual tree. Oh, I'm all zoomed in. That would explain why it's so hard to see things. But there's the tree in the middle, and the comfrey on each side of it. It's pretty big. Keeps down the weeds, but it can kind of overshadow the plant pretty bad. So at this point, I've got to keep cutting its companion plants back to even give it a chance. But that's how it is sometimes. I'll make a cut here, move on to the next area. Rose of Sharon, looking very, very beautiful. Right at the edge of the food forest. This isn't quite what I was advertised when I bought it, but I'm not complaining. They're quite beautiful, and I got them quite cheap from somebody on Etsy. So, Rose of Sharon are another easy, completely edible plant. Perennial, cold hardy, really awesome one to add to the garden. And look at all these buds that haven't opened yet. So it will keep blooming for a long time to come. And it's got an asparagus right next to it as a companion. See y'all in a minute. Here's the jujube tree. It survived our winter for 3 winters out here. It was originally a graft of a known variety, but the graft section definitely died. So now it's just whatever One Green World is using for rootstock. But I figured no real reason to kill it off. So it's been growing quite well, just fine, for quite a while out here. It's not all that tall, but it's getting bigger and bigger. As companions, it's got a walking onion there, a lot of asparagus, really beautiful agave. I've got a couple videos come out on it recently. Sea kale, and right there, I just transplanted a few weeks back some Joe Pye weed. Oh, looks like there's some more sea kale coming up there. And as I walk around back, I'm hoping to see flowers on this one of these days for me to show all of you. Not flowers, bugs. But this is skirret. I've got a couple old videos on skirret. I should probably make some this fall as well. But I've seen a lot of our native species that eat carrot relatives can eat these too, despite the fact that this one comes from Europe. So that's pretty cool. Hopefully I see some of those caterpillars this year to film. Last year's film did not come out very nice on them. But one more view of this area. Beautiful jujube and yucca. I will have to start heading over. I don't need a cut though. There's a comfrey that I planted this year along with this one nitrogen fixer. It's the gummy berry. Got a really big, beautiful sunflower coming up next to it. At the end of the year, I'll harvest the sunflower head probably, or I'll leave it for the birds. Once it's picked dry, I'll chop it and lay it right on the ground here. All the nutrients that it dug from deep in the earth are pulled up here now. And when I lay them back down across the ground, they'll break down and feed. Down there, that one little bitty gummy berry. I planted 2 of them this year. One of them is about 3 times as big as the other one. This is the little one. So it's still growing all right. Looking over to this other side, we've got big asparagus fronds falling over again. Got aronia berries ready to pick. I've shown off aronia berries many times on this channel, and I have a video coming out very soon on them. But big fan of these. They don't taste very good raw, but cooked, they're an awesome variety. Barely sweet at all, almost no sugar. Tastes a lot like berries and apple skin. But if you cook with them and add sugar, they're great. Right here is a nasturtium. I've tried for years to get nasturtiums to grow. This is the first one I've finally got to flower. So I'm hoping it will self-seed and sort of perennialize. I believe this was from Botanical Interest. The seeds were a few years old. Right here is a variegated Rose of Sharon. my wife picked out last year. It's looking pretty good. It's got some buds on it. Behind it is a very small cotton candy mint. I, of course, will have to work hard to keep that contained, but I'm ready for that. Big daylily right here. All this is river locust. Good to chop and drop and fertilize this area with. That was a tree that didn't make it on the first year. It's been dead a few years. It was a Szechuan. But all this is sage. So there's no reason to kill the area off. Here's one of my more mature gummy berries. Sweet scarlet variety. Probably need to take the tag off of it and move it somewhere else because that tag's getting pretty tight down there. But it's got a companion plant of asparagus and potatoes and walking onions. Right behind it is another aronia berry, but it's just about buried underneath this big, beautiful Soshan, or cutleaf coneflower. Very popular with the bees, very popular with the butterflies. I've even seen monarchs on it. Of course, the baby monarch caterpillars can't eat it because it's not a milkweed, but the adults I've seen stop and drink from it. Right there's the aronia in the back. There's a baptisia and lots of potatoes, just potatoes I didn't harvest last year that perennialized in the soil. Continuing on this walk, here's yet another gummy berry. Looking very, very nice. Big fan of gummy berries. They're just a better version of their invasive cousin, the autumn olive. So if autumn olives grow well for you, but you don't like how invasive they are, or they're illegal in your area, these have a lot of the same benefits without the invasive negatives. Another big, beautiful aronia. Couple berries in the middle. They are pretty astringent. Another name for these are choke berries, not choke cherries. Those are a separate thing, but choke berries, quite nice looking. 7 times the antioxidants of a blueberry. Another baptisia, another walking onion. Just a beautiful area. Self-seeding watermelon. Probably a citron melon if I had to guess. But it's growing out here. There's chives I planted. Did a little bit of weeding in this area. And I see some asparagus babies. I see sea kale. More asparagus. And the tree in this area is supposed to be a plum. So hopefully this is still an actual plum and not the wild plum rootstock that may have taken over. We'll have to wait and see. But at least some small stuff is surviving down below. Start heading off this way again. Walking over here to my other gummy berry that's new from this year. It's all the way out of the top of the tree tube. Have a video on expanding this little by little. Added these balloon flowers. That one's not in flower anymore, but it's a yellow variety, not balloon flower, blanket flower. And here's this one, red and yellow variety of blanket flower. Quite beautiful. And it's going to just perennialize here. There's some more potatoes around it. I planted Richter's marl root right there, but it's looking like it's not going to pull through. There's a walking onion right there that is. And there's that native prickly pear. Looks like it's still got some comfrey coming up around it that I used as fertilizer that decided to take root. So I'll have to keep pulling that back, but that cactus is looking great, so this will be another established patch. Walking a little bit further over from here, we had sweet corn from someone else's farm recently, so I just dropped this over as mulch. Good vitamin-rich mulch, or whatever, and chives. That right there is a medlar tree. So there's some chives around it, some comfrey around it. We'll start walking back this way. Here's the last aronia in this lineup. It's got big, happy, healthy companions. Some bee balm down there. I believe that's Eastern or Bradbury bee balm. Another big, happy, healthy river locust. Soshan, looking quite nice. As we come over here a little further, we have another volunteer watermelon plant. Another variegated, Another variegated Rosa Sharon. Some kind of squash or cucumber. Over here we've got overgrown asparagus, lots and lots of comfrey. We've got some tayberry. Keep walking all the way around. The tayberry has kind of encircled this whole area. Probably need to take cuttings of it and put it somewhere else. But right here it's a little spent, but horehound, which should have seeds inside of these structures. If I break them up, maybe they've already dropped, maybe not. That might be one. But horehound, another medlar tree. We had one developing. I thought maybe we'd get to try our first medlar this year, but the deer finally ate it. But one of these years it'll get big enough that they can't eat them all. Lots and lots of potatoes around here. This is a sorb, or a service tree. They're supposedly also called charms in Britain. I'm not sure, but they're supposed to be pretty unpleasant to eat raw, but they're a very beautiful tree, and they can pollinate certain pears, and they make really good preserves. So I was happy to add that one. Just moving along back towards this kind of weedy area, but lots of comfrey, some bee balm, more corn cobs. This right here is my Odisso Red Love, which was a Valentine's Day gift from my wife. So definitely one of my favorite trees, always will be. It's a little rough over here. I think that the red foliage is preferred by deer. But it's got a bean stalk growing up it right now, so we'll get a couple beans from this area. Lots of raspberries around it that'll be ripe soon. Continuing along this way, we've got more asparagus and an Arkansas black apple. No fruit developing yet, but it's a start. It's growing well. Keep walking around this way. That's a tomato that volunteered right there. Right over here is another apple tree. Comfrey all over the ground. Peach tree. This peach tree flowered and fruited profusely on its first year, but here on its second year it got frosted out, so hopefully that lets it focus on getting big and strong this year, and next year we can let it fruit for real. But nice raspberry. This is supposed to be a purple raspberry. We'll see if it fruits next year. It's gonna keep moving along. More asparagus. This one's a Nanking cherry, if I'm not mistaken, so I'll need to get a pollinator for it. Another Arkansas black apple. More comfrey. Very nice looking tree. This one I believe is a yellow russet. Just coming along. There's strawberries growing down in there. Lots of strawberries here. It's another contender peach. More Soshan. Or cutleaf coneflower. Heading over to the really weedy parts of the garden, but I've finally got some trees in there. We've got some mugwort growing along the ground right here. Bought that from Richter's. A beautiful bee balm. This is supposed to be the most nutritious apple in the world, Monty's Surprise. You can only buy it from one source. I believe it's Burnt Ridge Nursery. I, of course, haven't tried it yet. I planted it this spring. And as you can see, the deer seem to really love eating the leaves and stems on it. But give it a few years and I'll be happy to tell you guys how it tastes. If you want to see more, just subscribe and hang around. I'll be staying for the long haul. Right here, another type of squash. Hard to say which type it is. I planted a bunch of different varieties in through here. I don't know what happened because I had a whole lot of overgrowth in here. It made it hard to traverse, yet all of a sudden it looks like somebody's walked through and destroyed a lot of my crops. Looks like somebody picked off almost all the leaves on that. This is strange, but it is what it is. Sometimes this sort of thing happens. Got a peach tree in the middle here. Yep. Apios americana around the peach tree. Quite strange to see, but just walking along. Maybe some deer came through and just made beds of the place. I don't know. But hopefully this year I will start mowing this next year, and hopefully that will clear out the weed issues. I don't know why they came up so bad. We tilled this area before I planted it to try to knock the weeds down, and they only got worse. So we're just going to have to wait and see. But that area's not looking as good as I had hoped. The hazels around here look good. Right there's some bee balm growing up in the middle. It looks pretty good. Way in the back, right there is a blackberry coming along. There's another hazel in there. And right around here is supposed to be another cherry, another bush cherry. I'm almost wondering if the critters can smell the bush cherry and they're just really drawn to it. Maybe that's what's causing all this damage, or critters coming in to get at my bush cherries. Let's see if I can even find it, because it's not where I thought it was. I thought I had planted my bush cherry right up on that pole. Huh. Oh, there it is. Yeah, something came through and really ate up the bush cherry. That surprised me. So they must be able to smell it, and they must seek it out, because that's a lot of work for them to get in here with all these thorny plants just to eat on it. But I suppose I can't be too shocked. There's a fennel right there. Looks like somehow, some way there was some okra growing, but it got knocked over. Throw that down there. Try to step back out of the gardens. Right along here. Just really weedy gardens I got to get put back together. There's a raspberry I got for free. I don't even remember the variety. Right over here, we've got more comfrey, some more bee balm. Stuff's struggling with the weed pressure, but otherwise it's not looking too bad. A lot of the stuff's still alive. Looks like something came through and was rough on that hazel. Let's keep walking back. We're going to get towards the area that I call the nut orchard, or the walnut orchard. I really try to plant more jug-loan tolerant species as if we walk through here. So right here is American persimmon from Gurney's. It's got some potatoes planted around it. It continues to dip further and further down. I'd really like it to stand upright, but it's getting it starting. Maybe I'll try to get it put in a taller tree tube next. That would definitely be a big help to it. But right here's my hopnis trellis. Got a sunflower that's bigger than me already. All sorts of vines all over, all around it. So this produces a lot of food. If I were going to grow hopnis specifically to harvest and eat, this is probably my favorite way to grow it. Big cattle paddle trellis is really affordable. Just set it up and let it run. It'll climb all over this trellis and it'll produce a ton of food. I made a video last fall on harvesting it and showing just how much I got out of it. So if you want to know how viable it is, if it's worth it for you, definitely go and check out that video. But for me, I'm going to leave this another year to recover. I'm told it's best to harvest it every other year. So I've got multiple spots of it now, just so I don't exhaust one spot. All these that keep climbing out into the grass are just going to get hit by the mower blades, so I try to convince the plant, instead of going towards the mower blades, to go towards things like the giant sunflower that isn't going to be mowed down. But you know, plants, especially vines, they kind of do what they want to do. Oh, do what I can to unravel it and then get it up and around. Oh, here we go. Maybe it wants to go around the other way. Maybe that's where I'm screwing this up. Every type of vine has a direction they want to go. There we go. Now I've got it kind of grabbed on. It should climb that direction now. That one I'll give up on, but moving along. We had a critter pass away on the homestead. Wasn't one of ours. It was wild animal hit by a car. Pretty big critter. So I went ahead and planted it right here next to this tree. And I planted a elderberry right on top. So that will hopefully become a nice healthy elderberry in a few years. Right up against the tree there's some chives, some tomatoes growing as volunteers. That's from our last big rain. I'll probably dump it tomorrow if we're still dry and just water the plants with it, the younger ones. Moving along, we've got nannyberry viburnum, wild plums, coming up on first walnut. This one is a black walnut with Japanese walnut grafted onto it. Really excited for it. Thornless honey locust over there. I've got 4 of these Japanese walnuts. I'd like to get another 2. If you'd like to see my food forest grow and you want to give some support, I have a Patreon. You can give whatever you're up for, give whatever you're willing. It'll just turn into more plants for us. Heading along this way. Walked by one of them already, but here's one of the hickory trees that I planted this year. I'd really like to... No, those aren't hickory, those were cold hardy pecan. Right here is a persimmon. It defoliated for some reason, but it's got green leaves coming up, so it's not dead. Got another beautiful Japanese walnut. It's got some bee balm growing around the base of it, some comfrey. Here we've got a hybrid persimmon. May not survive winter, it may survive winter, we'll see. Another thornless honey locust. This one's got some beans growing up it. Don't even remember what kind of beans, but I'm happy for them. This is a great nitrogen fixing plant. Really happy to have it. So hopefully in future years I can use it as a crop for forage for animals. Oh, and look, it's got Apios americana growing on it too. Looks good. I can also use it as chop and drop. Alright. And the rest of it is just back to those chestnuts. So, hopefully you learned something. Hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you in another video as soon as I can. Goodbye, everybody.